here in Brailsford at GM Brailsford's garage, and this is literally like probably one of the oldest garages inside the country, and I've got a really, really rare, one of the first edition Land Rovers to show you. What's your name?
It's Ross.
Ross. Right, so what is this? I mean, I know it doesn't look like, I suppose it does look like much, but at the same time, what? Tell me what this is.
It looks a massive chassis, doesn't
yes,
it?
Yes, it does.
It's a very early 1949 Series 1 Land Rover. They only started making them in 1948, late 1948, so it's within the first year of production, which means it's got a lot of the early features on it. The problem with that is it's difficult to restore.
How long have you been restoring it for?
I've had this, I found it in a garden in Cambridgeshire about 15 years ago, and it's been in storage a while. I've only actually started it about 2 years ago. Managed to get it. It was sort of too good to be true, and I got it and thought it doesn't cost anything to sit there waiting, you know.
Was it in quite bad condition when you first got
it? Yeah, it's pretty rough. Last taxed in 1967. I think the engine last ran in 71. The chassis is completely shot. It's at the back there. There's not a lot left of the original chassis, unfortunately. So.
So you've rebuilt this all yourself?
Yeah, it's a new chassis built by a specialist. Everything else is pretty much original but restored. Bulkhead completely rotted, so all of this is new. Whole frame and everything I've made, and the centre panel, this centre bit, is original. That's the instrument binnacle's original, but all of this frame and legs is all new. I have to make that from scratch.
So you get the basic shape then from it, and then just add the bits to it. That's so you can get all the measurements from the rotted bit.
The problem with this kind of stuff is that back then it was imperial, not metric.
Oh, right.
If you want a piece of box section like that, it only comes in metric now.
Oh.
So I've ended up getting 2 pieces of channel.
Yeah.
Cutting it to the right size and welding it together to make box sections. The only way you can get the right size. So it's things like that. It's not an easy one to restore.
Yeah.
It's getting some of the parts are quite difficult as well.
So when are you hoping to get it finished for you? I've got a clue.
It's done.
Yeah, when it's done.
Takes as long as it takes.
I bet customers' cars always go in front.
I often get a chance to work on my own vehicles, to be honest.
And what are you going to do once it's done? Sell it, take it out to shows, or use it?
No, I wouldn't sell it because, to be honest, I'd never find another one. So it's pretty good to go to local shows. I've got some stationary engines, listed stationary engines, so I'll probably end up with a little trailer on the back, take it to the shows with a few of the old vintage engines running as well.
And how rare is it?
Sorry?
How rare is it? How many?
As early as this, there's not so many about now. I think 3 weeks after this one was made, they did a lot of changes.
Right.
The problem is that it was designed and developed in less than a year into production, and then they spent the next 2 or 3 years ironing out the problems. Things like, for instance, one big problem they had with the steering. They had a shimmy on the steering.
Right.
The reason they got it is because they copied the design from the Jeep, wartime Jeep. Didn't matter on a Jeep because it was just full of soldiers. But selling it to the public, the steering wasn't great. And they altered various different bits on it, and eventually they worked out what the problem was. It's this shackle here. Swinging shackle on the front, that's all it was. And all they did was put a fixed shackle and move the swinging shackle to the back.
Right.
And it solved it. So this is an early one, with the early narrow springs and early swinging shackle at the front.
So you're going to be like a shoulder when you're going well.
Yeah.
It's
going to be an interesting drive, I think. Yeah, it's going to have all the early problems that they had. But little things like that, they spent the first 3-4 years ironing it out. Even though they were making them and selling them, they were constantly changing them. So being this early, there's a lot of parts that aren't even in the parts book. So it's a bit of a challenge to restore.
You look like you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
I would like to do it.
That design with the swinging shackle stayed right up until 1984, the last of the Series 3s. But only the first sort of year and a half, 2 years production had that, until they worked out what the problem was. But yeah, it's got all its early features. It's got early brakes on it. Self-adjusting brakes, again, they're only very early. The first 8 or 9 months of production had those. Again, getting parts is very difficult because they haven't been made for 60 years. But yeah, I'll get there eventually. See, the rear spring's got the springy shackle at the back.
Oh yeah.
So all they did was copy that down at the front. Sold it. Just took them a long time to work that out. But,
Have you got much like original interior as well?
yeah.
Are these the seats?
No, that's from another one. The mains of the seats, they were early shovel back seats.
All right, okay. And that's all that's left?
Yeah, that's all that's
you've
left.
got a lot of work.
Got to try and recover them.
Good luck with that. I bet that's not an easy job.
It's harder. I'm
Well
literally...
done you. Well done.
I'm going to have to put it down now. Go film something. Oh God.
Well done you.
Oh God, that was difficult. Oh, I told you I'm strong.
The garage itself is one of the oldest in Derbyshire, 1895.
Oh.
Originally it was a wooden shed. About 1900 it was half the depth, so it was only half the size. If you look at the windows, you've got arched windows at the far end and square at the front, so it was only that far end. And I think about 1920 it was extended to where it was now. I've got pictures of it in the late 1920s and it's got the same doors. So those doors date back to at least the 1920s. And it's one of the oldest petrol stations in Derbyshire as well.
Is it?
Originally, it was Mr. Griggs that founded it, and he used to ride into Derby Station on his bike with a basket on the front and bring cans of petrol back and store them in a pit in the garden at the back. And there was only one car in the village back then, and that was at the hall. The rest of them, the rest of the fuel went to things like stationary engines, just starting to come in, and agricultural gear, that sort of thing. So it's a purpose-built garage, still going, probably one of the earliest in the country, to be honest.
Is it? So when was it built? Did you say the start of it?
1895 it was started.
1895. Wow.
As I say, it was a general sort of engineering and probably agricultural equipment as much as anything.
Yeah.
I mean, in the early days, up until the 20s, if you wanted parts for your car, you had to make them.
Yeah.
You couldn't go to parts. So
No.
there's a huge milling machine in the side building there.
Can I have a look at that?
And it's not there now.
Oh no, no.
But the little side building originally had a big milling machine in there, and if you
Right.
wanted something like a pond rod or something for your car,
Yeah.
you'd just make it on site.
Right.
You had to those days.
Yeah.
There were couldn't get parts.
No,
Yeah,
no, that's
made 'em.
amazing.
So yeah, it's quite a historic building in itself, really.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview and talk about a wonderful building. I really like it. You've got some wonderful things here. Thank you. Have a
Okay,
wonderful day.
no problem.
Bye.